How you doing, Drew? Oh, oh. How you doing, buddy? You good?
I'm good, mate. Yourself?
Yeah, not too bad, man. Oh, there we are. We haven't got a delay this time.
Fantastic.
All good, mate. All good. Yeah, man. I had some crazy messages off after that. You know, that Michael Jackson thing I mentioned on my story.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure if any of the audience has seen that HBO documentary. I haven't even seen it. Have you seen it?
Yeah, you were talking about it, right? I've decided not to watch it actually. I know Nancy's been watching it. I don't know which way to look at it. It doesn't look too good, obviously, with regards to Michael Jackson, from what I'm hearing from clients and obviously loved ones. But you've put something out there recently, right? And it's
mixed reviews.
Backfired on you? Or
just loads of people sent me messages saying, "Oh, you know, it definitely wasn't him," and there was all these statements and stuff they had, and all, you know, like when he was alive and stuff. It's like, obviously when someone's dead, it's obviously it's a lot easier to go at them. But having said that, I mean, you would think, just by, you know, looking into it, just by, even without watching the documentary, you would assume like he did it, right? You just assume that with that much power, he took a bit of advantage of him and whatever. But it's a tough one. I'd like to believe he didn't.
There's something strange going on. Do you know what I mean? It's just, obviously your vision can be clouded when you hold someone in such high prestige as you did Michael Jackson as an entertainer. And we kind of turn a blind eye to other things that are going on. You'd like to think that he didn't do it, you know, and he had some sort of issue that with his own childhood, that he wanted to hang around with kids. But it's just having those kids there on your own as a grown man. There's something fishy about that to me. Like, I don't think it just seems all a little off to me, you know. And even it's obviously easy to kind of blame the parents, but I'm not a parent myself, so everyone can come at me for that. But as a parent, why are you leaving your child alone with a grown man, regardless if he's the king of pop and he's the #1 superstar in the world? For me, there's something wrong there. You're either after money or but again, he could lure them in, you know. He could have been building up that trust over time.
Yeah, exactly.
And then gradually, you know, lured them in. They got to know him more as a person, and they felt that it wasn't an issue to be alone with him. It's just, for me, there's something wrong there, that you are spending time alone with a little boy, you know.
That's it, mate. Yeah. Well, this guy, there's loads of people who messaged me and said he didn't do it, which I was surprised with. I assumed everyone would just like agree with me, because especially based on the facts and that. But yeah, this guy sent me a thing saying like certain accusers, they swore under oath, basically, that the relationship with Jackson was never inappropriate or whatever. And there was like 50 people or 50 kids who were kids at the time who come forward and said, nope, he never did anything, didn't abuse them. There was nothing at all. Nothing that even relates to anything to do with abuse and stuff, you know what I mean? But at the same time, though, man, you know, those two guys, obviously, they could be after money, but some of the stuff they're saying, like, obviously, when they would go away and stuff together as well. And they would stay in hotels, and apparently he was taking them like further and further away from the parents and stuff.
For me,
like that.
that's a bit strange, you know. That's a little strange for me, because if you have that type of money that he does, and you know, he's probably going to book out the majority of the hotel, or at least a floor of the hotel. So you'd think the rooms would be pretty much on the same floor at least, or next door, if you're going to separate them. Even then, why are you staying in the same room? Was it overnight with a boy? You know?
Yeah, exactly, mate. It's just all
you
a
don't,
bit weird.
You don't stay in the same room as a boy overnight.
That's it.
Obviously, I'm just throwing things out there. This is what I'm hearing from clients and friends.
Thing, you're right, mate. If it was anyone else, imagine you knew someone, right? Imagine there's like a guy you knew that you lived by or something, right? And he just had loads of kids in his house, right? And he's just relaxing with kids all the time, right? Automatically, you're just going to assume, you know, what we think he's going to be up to, and like what's going through his mind, isn't it? Like, I hate to say the word, but you know, the P word. That's what you're going to think, isn't it? You know what I mean? And it's just the bottom line. That's what you're going to assume.
It is, but sometimes he could be just a little off. Like, that guy could be a little off, and he just likes, you know, having kids around, and you know, enjoys the company of kids.
Exactly.
So sometimes it's wrong for us to assume that things do happen, because we know that
we automatically do, though, don't we?
Sometimes not guilty. Yeah, we do, and then we look at one documentary, which documentaries tend to be obviously trying to put some sort of notion, bias towards one side, and then we automatically say, yes, they did. It's kind of similar to you. I know you've been watching Madeleine McCann documentary, right? And you were saying the parents definitely did it from the first, I don't know what episode you watched.
Oh, no.
Then
No, the podcast, though, see, because I'm listening to the podcast, and that's based on loads of evidence, the Australian one. And on the podcast, they're saying that it was basically the parents. You know, all the evidence they're using in the interviews and whatnot, and with the dogs, obviously the sniffer dogs smelling dead body in their car, all this kind of stuff. You're convinced. Basically, you're convinced it's the parents. But then when you watch the documentary, it's about 9 episodes, and like up to about episode 5, you're thinking it's the parents. You're like, wow, it's too off. It's got to be them. And then it switches, turns on his head. And you have to watch it, mate. It's really interesting. But yeah. And another thing was like the FBI obviously investigation with Jackson was like 10 years, and it was a 10-year investigation, a lengthy trial, and obviously all the evidence found that he was innocent of all these charges. Having said that, though, when you've got that much money and lawyers that good, it's like the R. Kelly thing, isn't it? You know what I mean? It's just all a bit mad, isn't it? Really.
Yeah, it's a tough one, obviously, and he's not here to defend himself right now either. So
that's it.
That's another issue. But I don't know. I haven't watched it, so I'm not going to try and comment too much.
I haven't watched
like
it.
When you work in our realm and you're with clients, you don't necessarily need to watch the news or documentaries. You'll get told everything anyway, and there's definitely kind of conflicting opinions from different clients. But some who haven't watched the documentary have said he didn't do it. Yeah. Others who, I guess, have been around people who have kind of experienced kind of sexual assault in the past, and they have like spoken to people about it, saying, yeah, he did it. This is like this is the notion of a child predator. This is what they do. Yeah. So who knows, right? It's a tough one. But.
It's a tough one, definitely. Yeah, man. So yeah, social media then. That's what we're going to talk. That was the topic of discussion today, was social media. So I just wanted to talk about, because I always seem to talk about the negatives and stuff, right? But there's obviously so much positives to come out of it as well. And just, I think, just new age technology in general. Like, there's so many great, amazing things that coming out of it. And we're living in an amazing era where we get to witness these rapid advancements of technology, right? And I just think, even over the next, say, 5 years, like, it's just actually mind-blowing with artificial intelligence. All that kind of stuff is really fascinating. So I reckon it'll be good for us to talk about this. But, just some of the positives, Drew, right? Obviously, keeps you connected to everyone, right? You're connected to everyone, you know what I mean? So we're more connected in a sense.
Especially living abroad, I guess. That's a massive a plus for, like, the likes of you and I, because we are away from family and friends, and it's much easier for us. Like, obviously, we're doing this on Skype now, and we can just look across from each other, have a good conversation, see each other. Like, we didn't get that 10 years ago. So, and again, you can remain, like, Facebook is, I guess I don't go on Facebook as much anymore, but I do stay in touch with friends from, like, college and from the past, from school. So, yeah, that's a massive positive, mate.
100%. But yeah. I just wanted to say then, because obviously that's a good point. Like, now we're having this conversation, crystal clear conversation now on Skype. People can watch the video, listen to us, and we're catching up as well. And as you say, that's I was going to mention that later down the line, is about staying connected with our families. Obviously, I live in Sydney, you live in New York, our family's in the UK, and obviously the funny thing is my Instagram stories, right? So obviously, as you know, I'm always popping on the story, mate, right? And my mum, I think I mentioned this before, like, if I don't, I think one time, mate, I didn't post a story within like 24 hours, and she was worried. She was messaging me like, "Oh, you okay?" You know what I mean? So like, and it's mad. Like, when I went back home, my cousins, my uncles, they were like, "I feel like I've been seeing you every day because of your story." You know what I mean? So it's crazy.
But didn't you have someone meet you in Bali because of that lately? Someone I know, was it Gareth you met?
Yeah, your mate Gareth. Yeah, that's madness. That is, mate.
You would never have known that, because I haven't spoken to him for years. Like, I think since school, and he was training at a gym I was working at. And without the notion, I keep using that word, sorry, without using like social media and Instagram, obviously he's following me, and he's seen that we've been sharing podcasts and sharing information on our business, and then randomly he's seen you in Bali, right, or a bar or something like that.
It's crazy, mate. It's absolutely crazy, man, to bump into a Welsh person.
Come up to you, and you've had a good chat over it.
He came over to me, and he was just staring at me like I was walking into this restaurant. There was no one in there. That's the mad thing. It was literally him and this guy and me and Kim, right? As we were about to walk in there, he's walking out, and he's just like, when someone's staring at you, and you're like, what's he staring at? You know what I mean? You're just looking back at him like, what? And he just comes over, and he's got this neck brace on. He's like, "Hey, bud," in the Welsh, in the Welsh, he had a neck brace on, Welsh accent, like, he was like, "Oh, mate," he was like, "Hey, bud, how you doing?" And he said, "Oh, yeah, I'm Andrew's mate, I am." That wasn't that bad, but he was like, "Yeah, I'm Andrew's mate." He said, "I listened to your podcast," and I'm like, "What the hell?" And then I'm thinking,
it's crazy, right?
It's crazy, mate. It's madness, but
so
he said,
obviously a positive, son.
Definitely, mate. Definitely, man. So that's a great positive.
You audition out you know, and again, that's comes from us dishing out some decent content on social media, right? We're trying to spread the right message, and he's seen that, he's followed it. Hopefully, he's getting some good advice from it, and obviously the listener as well. So
yeah, no, he said it was good in that, but yeah, I was chatting to him for about 10-20 minutes. It's crazy, but yeah, but so we're more connected on a digital level. We're more connected than we've ever been, right? But we'll come to the negatives when it comes to human connection. I think there's something going on there in terms of we're more disconnected than ever. But we'll come to that a bit later down the line. But it's a great tool for learning as well, right, Drew? But I find you've got to siphon out all the, like we always talk about, there's so much terrible information out there, especially within the fitness industry, on social media. You know, there's so much rubbish information on there, but there's so much great stuff you can learn. And like, I think it's very dangerous though as well with Facebook and Instagram. It's designed to be highly addictive. Okay, so it's like the analogy I heard was a great one. It's like donuts, right? It's hard to have one Krispy Kreme, right? You have a Krispy Kreme, you want to eat another one, right? Well, it's the same.
Any processed food, right? It's
any processed
like
food.
Pringles. Once you pop, you can't
Once
stop.
you pop, you can't stop.
They put it in the advert for you, and they're telling you that, and you still eat it. So
exactly,
like, you know,
and it's no different. And that's what I think people need to look at social media like. You go on your Facebook or your Instagram feed, you see a post, and guess what? The algorithm has been set up for you to see what you want to see. So whatever stuff you look at, whatever entertains you, guess what? That's going to come up on your feed. So you go on there, and I waste so much time on a weekly basis. Like, I'm getting better and better, and I'm more aware. But I'll go on social media. Like you said, you wanted to have a week off, right? I definitely need a few days off. I go on social media to put a post up, for example, or put something in my story. Again, something pops up, one of those donuts pop up, I see it, I want another donut. I scroll down, I see something else, I want another donut. You know what I mean? It's the same thing as if you look at it that way, you're just looking through other people's posts. And the good thing is now, because of the people I follow and the information I'm trying to absorb, a lot of the information on there is great information now on my feed. But even so, it's not necessary to scroll when I go on there every time. It's wasting time which could be spent doing more, like you said the other day, more important things, right, Drew?
Yeah, of course, man. It's you're definitely spending a lot of time. You know, obviously we're trying to build content for our online business, and I'm finding that if I have my phone nearby, I'm starting to write like a program, and I'll just randomly just grab my phone. It's the distraction from that programming, right? And it's just I'm just scrolling through it, and I often find myself like, this is one of the reasons why I want to give it up for a little while, because I often find myself just like flicking through people's stories without even like watching it, just tapping on it. I don't know if you do the same as that.
Yeah,
literally just tapping on someone's story, not looking at the segment on there or reading any of the information. I'm like, what am I doing?
Yeah, but that's what people do. That's what everyone does. I can guarantee most people listening to this can relate to that. And I do the same. This is why I don't watch stories. I literally don't watch them. Don't get me wrong. I'll tell a lie. I do watch stories, right? But I have to. I think you're right. When it gets to about 3 or 4 stories in, that's when it's game over. And then I'm tapping away, and I'm like. The donuts.
Is it really valuing you? It's not valuing you in any way, I think. And coming back to the point that you said earlier, that like obviously you're looking at certain contents of information, and you're finding out some good, you're getting some good content from it. Sorry.
Yeah. Justifying it.
Exactly, justifying it. You need to really be careful about siphoning out who you want to follow, because I would choose, like, the best way to do it is probably choose maybe 3 to 4 people who are spreading maybe a similar type of message in the fitness industry, and just follow them rather than getting overwhelmed with the content, right?
Yep.
Because otherwise you're going to end up spending all day on there, and you're just scrolling randomly, and it's going to take up some valuable time, and you're going to miss out on life, really.
100%. Yeah, it's so important in terms of who you follow, right? Because for years and years, I followed all sorts of people, and my feed, like I said, the feed was just a waste, really. In terms of the stuff that was coming up on my feed, it was just basically the bodybuilding kind of stuff. But when I was doing bodybuilding, it was just physiques. That's all I was seeing on my thing. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, and that's tough as well. That's, guys. From doing that as well, like if you're following, say, 20, if you're a male or female, whatever, say you're following 20 fitness models who, let's be honest, for the most part, we're displaying our best look when we're looking at our best. We're in a studio, we have good lighting, we're ripped, shredded, we've cut down for the shoot. You really kind of see those type of people on a daily basis, right? So it's a bit of a delusion when you're looking at that. You're getting a kind of a poor self-worth, because you're looking at everyone at their best, maybe 20 to 30 pictures during that time, and you're thinking that everyone looks this way. But really, when you go to the gym or you go outside, how many people do you really see on a daily basis that look like that? That's becoming your norm, right?
That's exactly
it's becoming your norm.
That's
and then you're looking at your own body and you're thinking, oh my God, I'm not in that type of shape. what's wrong with me, and that's not going to be good
and
for your psyche.
And the worrying thing, mate, that etches into your subconscious, right? So like people are aware of this, but they continue to do it because it's so addictive, right? And that molds your brain. It completely changes the way you look and compare yourself to other people. So imagine you walked outside now, right, and everyone looked amazing. You know all those different filters on Instagram? Imagine you walked outside, right, and you had, like, let's just say the X Pro 2 filter on one person, you had the lo-fi on another person. You know, they've modified the contrast. They put all these different, especially the models and or so-called models, right, with millions of followers. Mate, they are modifying the shit out of those photos.
Oh, like, it's crazy. You've seen people. Mate, you've seen people take pictures.
You see them.
Pictures they take at one time, and then I've literally watched people maybe for an hour sit at a table or a restaurant or something like that, and they've been taking selfies for an hour. Not 100%. Communicating with anyone else at that time.
That's it. So they've said they spent an hour taking the selfies. They spend another hour modifying it with the filters, right? So like, it's just not real life. And then people are, social comparisons. We naturally, we're kind of programmed to compare ourselves to other people. Anyways, it's an evolutionary thing, right? It's like for health or whatever it is. But when you're doing it on social media, it's just literally any insecurities you have about yourself. It's just cementing them in. But talking a bit more about the positives as well, in terms of, it's a great tool to learn, right? So if you want to, Instagram is very good as well. But, you got the likes of YouTube and podcasts, all these different platforms now. And I think some of the great things that have happened, for example, like, there's been murder cases solved and all sorts now, just because of online information. For example, there's this podcast, I think it's the #1 podcast in the world now. It's called Teacher's Pet. Have you heard about that?
Okay. I haven't, no.
Yeah, it's out here in Australia. Yeah, I need to listen to him. I'm getting really into this crime stuff now. I need to listen to this one. But basically, mate, there's a guy over in North Sydney, and back in the 80s, I don't know the full story, but I know he murdered someone. Maybe he murdered more than one person. But the bottom line is, through this podcast, they ended up finding out they had evidence, and they ended up arresting him. He's now in his 70s, and he's going to be going to prison. So because of the podcast, and there's loads of stuff that happened online, in terms of people who end up. Something happens to them or something, and poor people in countries get funded for certain things, and charities, all this kind of stuff. It's great for raising awareness, I guess, is what I'm trying to say, right? For certain causes, and
and that can be obviously I know I don't want to be negative about everything, but raising awareness is massive and is fundamental for making the world a better place. We know that, but also sometimes when we raise an awareness about the wrong things, especially through social media, it gives people ideas to do things in a negative way, such as, like, obviously there's been a spate of shootings. Obviously the recent one in New Zealand, right, is obviously terrible. Close to heart for you. Is that giving someone, when that's being spread and somebody's recording that live, and then someone seeing that in like a, someone who 10, 20 years ago probably wouldn't have even imagined getting any information about the stuff that was going on in the world. They are then looking at that video and they're thinking, well, my life's pretty shit. They believe in kind of propaganda on the news and things like that, and they feel, right, I'm going to do a shooting like this, and I'm going to up this guy now. I'm going to do one better than him. I'm going to record it, put it live like a video game, and that's where it can be used negatively, right? So 100%. We've got to be very when we raise awareness and why.
Yeah, mate, I tell you what, that's a good point, and I'm not going to go too much into the details of that, but
I haven't watched it myself.
Absolutely. No, I wouldn't watch it either. But it was on Facebook Live. One of my clients said someone showed it him on Snapchat or whatever, and just absolutely horrendous, mate. How, like, he had a GoPro and actually, mate, and that's obviously one of the things that is, it's just pros and cons, man. It's like it can be dangerously detrimental, or it can be, it can be extremely powerful and useful, and yeah, go on.
As you said, it can be raised, funds can be raised for certain disasters around the world, and,
exactly
help people who've gone through that. And obviously what we are doing with health and nutrition, so there are a lot of positive aspects that can be taken from it. Let's hope that we come out of this and the world is a better place from using social media, not a worse place.
Definitely, and I think it is a massive experiment, though, right? So, there's, like we said, there's
especially with kids and stuff.
100%, and because people are more connected now, like, I wish we had some examples of great things that have happened in terms of, people being cured from certain things.
Yeah.
You know, people being found. Like there's been people who have gone missing, have been found thanks to social media. All these amazing things, but then at the same time, it's like Sal says, right? Sal from Mind Pump, he says it's like the processed food of our generation, as we alluded to earlier on, right? Because you know, it's a big experiment. It's like what was it, like 40, 50 years ago when all this processed rubbish food came on the scene. You know, all these processed cereals, refined sugars, saturated fats, processed meats, whatever it is. You know, low fat, the low fat craze, which you know, ended up pumping people full of artificial stuff and more sugar, and which was obviously a big contributor to obesity, and it's the reason, one of the main drivers as to why we're facing an obesity epidemic and an epidemic of chronic illness also, is because of that processed food. But it's a similar thing with social media. 100% what Sal says is true, because social media comes out, Facebook came out, God knows when it was, 10, 11 years ago when I started using it anyway. And great, we're more connected, we're messaging people, we're in touch with people. But then it's like, you know, there's got to be a price to pay, because we're spending so much time. Like the average, I think in 2008, for example, the average person spent about, I think it was about 18 minutes a day on social media. 2015, 2 hours and 48 minutes. It's highly addictive. You know, there was experiments done on pigeons. I don't know how this worked, right? But there's experiments done, and yeah, I don't know how this works. I think they must share, I don't know, like rats or whatever, share some of our DNA, but with dopamine and stuff. Right. And what if, do you know what I was saying about the donuts? But apparently they release when they were given less food, basically, right? So it's related to our psyche, right? When they were given less food, they packed more and released more dopamine when they were given less food. So in other words, the uncertainty of, like, for example, social media and gambling, anything addictive, when there's uncertainty involved, you actually release more dopamine, right? So you're releasing that excitable hormone, if you like. So that's what Instagram is like, for example, and Facebook. When you put a post up, for example, you might sometimes get, like, you know what it's like, you might get like X amount of likes and attention as to what it is. Another time, then you'll put another post up and it'll just completely flop. So that uncertainty of it actually releases more dopamine and makes you chase it more. So you know, when you're playing with the neurochemicals in your brain, there's going to be a price to pay for sure, 100%.
I think it's something like 2 hours a day on your phone is a month of your life over the course of month of your life over the course of a year, man. So, and we definitely, I know that I've been doing that. How about yourself?
Wow, that's a crazy stat, that, mate. Yeah, oh, mate, easy. Like, I mean, that's 2 hours on your phone. Well, if the average person spends 2 hours and 48 minutes on social media alone, that's not just on their phone. Jesus, that's so. Let's just say you spend, like, I spend sometimes 5-6 hours in a day on my phone, right? So let's just say 6 hours at my worst, right? So what did you say? For 2 hours?
2 hours a day on your phone is a month of your life over the course of a year.
So 6 hours would be 3 months over the course of a year. So 6 hours means I'm spending a quarter of my year on my phone. Oh my God!
Yeah, man, that's which is also taking you away from that. It's also taking you away from that moment, like that moment when you're with someone, or your just life, basically, isn't it? Like when you spend scrolling through your phone, you're not really looking around and observing what's going on and being with nature or whatever. You know, obviously I'm in New York. I have lots of things to look at. You're living a beach life at the moment. You know, you're in a city, but you have a nice beach by you, and your phone is probably a distraction, taking you away from that calming moment at the beach, or when you're going for a nice walk. You know, so it's all relevant.
That present moment. 100%, man. If you, it's a great stat you put there. Let's just say, because I know a lot of people spend 6 hours is drastic, right? But obviously, I don't have a. You know, obviously it's different. We're with clients, we're off our phones, right? And then when we're back on them, you know, people in work sometimes don't really get a chance to look at their phone as much, or whatever it is. But let's just say, at the worst, people spend 6 hours a day on their phone. If you could look at some stats, I reckon you'll realize that actually, like, a quarter of our life is spent, say, on our phone. Maybe a third is spent sleeping. Like, it's literally taken over. You know, if you're not careful, and like I said, I've said to people before, you can actually do it in your settings now. You can check your usage, which is very interesting, and how much time you spend on social media and whatnot. There's also an app called Moment, which I use as well, and look at that sometimes as well. Tells you how much time you're spending on there and productivity and whatnot. But yeah, so
using that app, does that make you use it less, or you look at it and you just bugger it? I'll just use it as normal, or it does make you
actually? Yeah, it scared the shit out of me. I stopped using this, but now I just look at the settings thing. But yeah, I find it. That's the thing. I'm kind of running away from it because I know it's an issue. Like, obviously I do some you know, stuff which is productive on my phone, but there's no way am I doing anything that productive. Well, it's 6 hours. I'm just wasting time one way or another. Checking. That's another thing, isn't it? Checking. You know, check. Yeah, we check. Everyone. The first thing most people do in the morning is obviously check their emails. I understand some people.
Myself. That's one thing where I've actually put this. If you have an iPhone, there's a timer that can time off your apps. So like my apps come on at 9 a.m. I believe, and they go off at 8 p.m. at night. There is a button you can press which it says ignore your limit. Yeah. But even seeing that, it kind of tells you not to go on there. Do you know what I mean? Like, so having that ignore your limit sign on there tells you, hey, I shouldn't be doing this. Sometimes you kind of automatically just click on it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's madness, like, you know.
100%. Let's just like drop some tips from now, right? Because I know I just want to say as well, we are definitely not people to preach about this stuff. All we're trying to share with you is our experience and the mistakes we're making more than anything. But just like, for example, it's a form of escapism, right? So if you look at it, especially social media, if you just look at it as a drug, I know it sounds a bit drastic, right? But it's having that effect on your brain, right? Even if it is to a much smaller degree, then obviously it is going to be a smaller degree than obviously class A drugs, right? But you know what I mean? It's anything that can be used to take you away from the present.
Well, we don't know.
Drug. We don't know. That's
like, we haven't come out of it yet, so who knows how, you see the way it's affecting kids at the moment, right? So
exactly,
social skills are definitely on the decrease.
100%.
They barely talk. If you watch a group of kids now, they'll be next to each other, but they'll Snapchat each other.
100%.
So it'll be interesting to see that the huge impact it has on this generation, even us. Like, we were just kind of outside there, kind of glad that we missed it in school.
Definitely.
Because everything would be recorded, all the silly shit you did in school, right?
100%.
On nights out and things like that. So we kind of skipped that, but we're still getting sucked into it at our age now, and the older generation. So
definitely, mate. And I'm glad you brought that up, mate, because I don't know if you've read or listened to that book, iGen.
No, I haven't yet. No, that's on the list.
Mate, get on it, right? Because I had to write. It's just full of facts, right? And they're really worrying facts. Well, I'll just read a couple out now. 62%. You're 62. So for teenagers now, right? So the iGen, just for the listeners, is anyone who's born essentially into the internet era, right? So the internet was originated really properly in 1993, I believe. So if you're born after that, if you're born anywhere between, I think, 1993 or basically after 1993 you're within the iGen, but if you're born after the year 2000 you're classed as a millennial. But it's all kind of the same thing. Andrew and I can't think what generation are we? Are we like
I'm a millennial. I think I'm a millennial because I'm just within that.
No, millennial is if you're born after 2000. So we're like
I think it's 80. No, I was born 84, so I believe I'm classed as a millennial. Like
millennial is if you're born after year 2000. So this is like the kids.
I'm not sure it is. Check that out.
Is it not?
I think I'm a millennial. I think now it's
we're Z-Gen. Kim, what are we? X-Gen or Z-Gen? Oh, anyway, one of the two, right? We're X or whatever. Let's
throw it out there.
Yeah,
don't worry about it. Somebody correct us when they listen anyway. Don't worry.
Oh, for sure, mate. Yeah, but like for example, for teenagers in the iGen or anyone who's born, let's just say after 1993, right? For argument's sake, there's 62% more likely for a teen to experience depression, right? 62% in 2005 than 2010. So it's not even like a massive. Social media really started, especially Instagram. I think that was 2011 or 12 that was released. Facebook, obviously. So it's a massive. You can't say it's causation, but there's a massive, massive correlation between social media and depression, right? Let me just pump. Yeah. So what was it? 50%. You're 50% less likely to be unhappy if you spend time with on a screen instead of with your friend. That's a bit of a thing one. But then Facebook as well has been proven to cause depression, unhappiness and loneliness, right? It's been proven through certain studies they've done and stuff. What else was it? There's some better ones than that. Yeah. There was the other one now between 1995 and 2012. Yeah, that's it. Mental illness, basically mental health illness in teens, exploded.
And suicides as well, right?
100%, mate.
Suicide rate has increased as well.
Definitely, mate. It exploded past year 2011. So that's basically when Instagram came on the scene, right? Average teen picks their phone up about 80 times per day. 80 times the average teen picks their phone up. So obviously there's going to be a price to pay anyway. So with teenagers,
and obviously we know that the teens and kids are on social media more now. So that's probably deflecting from them going outside and doing like other activities and moving and things like that. So we know that the less we move and the less we exercise, there's a higher bout of depression anyway. So there's got to be some sort of link between the two there.
100%. They're drinking much less alcohol and stuff though as well, which I suppose that's a good thing. But then that because they're not engaging with people as much, right? So what are they doing with that time? I'm not sure whether that could be.
I've heard like if you want to pick up like pick up a girl or boy or whatever, these days you don't just approach them and ask them out or anything like that. You initially like friend request them on like Facebook or Instagram, and if they don't follow you back or confirm, then that's a telltale sign that they don't want to be with you, like, or they don't want to be.
That's basically crazy, what it means. It's bonkers, isn't it? Yeah, and I think about a third, apparently at least a third of the dating leading up to dating someone is done via social media and text. Right. Not even text, like social media and WhatsApp, sliding in the DMs.
What do you do when you go out on a date then? You just don't talk. You just
I know. You've got nothing to say.
You Snapchat each other.
You sit there on your phone taking selfies.
In the perfect filter and saying you're having a great time, right?
Exactly.
You've seen that on a night out though, when people are you see people sat down, not talking to each other forever, like taking pictures of each other.
100%.
And they then post on social media about, I'm having the best night with the girls, or it's like, no, you're not. Like,
it's crazy, isn't it?
Or my pet hate is concerts as well, when people record the whole concert. When you're at a concert and they probably record like an hour and a half of it.
I know, and they're literally just like filming it, and they're not even there.
And it looks not even present on social media as well. It looks terrible.
It looks awful. But yeah, just how can we kind of right? So just like talking about building a business as well. Obviously, that's what our goals are now, and I just want to explain to the listeners. There's a difference between getting attention and building a business, right? Getting attention is a lot easier, especially on Instagram. We were talking about the filters and whatnot, and that's basically what I got sucked into. So I was doing the modeling stuff, and then I started, obviously posting a lot of the modeling pictures, trying to build up I was trying to, get some work as a model essentially, and posting pictures, fitness modeling ones, half naked and whatnot. Blew up my following. But then when it comes to actually then, over the last few months, Andrew and I, well, longer than that, we've been putting out good content and trying to get traction and engagement, obviously with this podcast as well. It's a different story, so don't ever get deceived. Like, I've got like 50-odd thousand followers or whatever, but that doesn't mean shit, because the engagement I'm getting, I'm getting good engagement, but if you look at like the percentage of people I'm getting engagement with, because a lot of those people I'm losing a lot of followers now, as I mentioned before, but most of those are dropping off, I assume, from me not posting as much, half-naked stuff, and I'm sure you can relate to this, and when it comes to getting attention on Instagram.
Yeah, I think obviously we talked about this before, but the half-naked shots get a lot more likes than the actual, the free content and good information you're pumping out. That's one kind of, again, another positive of social media is that it allows like people like us to get a platform where it also gives us like free advertising. Like we haven't alluded to this, so like we are getting the chance to put out content without paying someone. Like maybe years ago you'd probably have to pay like a team to do this for us, right? So 100%, we'd have to write something out, they'd have to pop it up on computer, print it out, advertise it somewhere, put it online. We can now do that free, but that also can be turned into a negative again, because it's allowing the people who don't provide the right information also to have a platform and build a following. And they end up giving out, like, rather than doing a good tailored plans and focusing on people's health over a long time, they end up giving out like cookie cutter plans, putting people on like poor diet protocols, poor training protocols. They're exactly the same for everyone. So, it's interesting to see what side that people follow. Do they follow the people putting out that good content, valuable information, or do they follow people who have like a huge following that aren't necessarily looking out for them as a person? They're just taking advantage, right?
Exactly, and a lot of people giving out plans and stuff, and these cookie cutter style plans, as you said, like they've never coached anyone either. Yeah. So like right. They don't really know how to program. Essentially, it's like they're giving out workout. But again, not to go negative again, I wanted to say something positive about the podcast.
No, sorry, man. It was positive.
No, I was gonna go. No, it was. I was gonna go.
You're all right. Yeah.
No, I was gonna say that. No.
I told you that earlier. I'm all negative today. So
you did say that, did you? No, I was gonna say about the podcast. So now, for example, if you wanted to do this 10 years ago, it's essentially a radio station. That's what we're running now. We're running our own radio station. It's the new age radio, right? That's what podcasts are. So like we just got, he's got his mic, I've got my mic. I paid $100 for this or whatever I paid for it. I've got Skype recording, and I paid $60 for a video recorder. boom, I'm recording the podcast. You know, so everyone's got a voice. So obviously that can be good and bad, right? Like Andrew was saying then. But again, to talk about the positives, you know, we're here and we're giving this information out with nothing but a microphone and Skype. Same goes for YouTube. If you wanted to start up like a media company like 10, 15 years ago, you know, it's going to cost you an arm and a leg to get all that equipment and stuff and get that, to actually get a platform to distribute that to people. It will cost you a fortune. Nowadays, what do you need? An iPhone. So it's great, but it's also, it's just, as you were saying at the start, and right, you've got to siphon out. You really have got to make a conscious effort to unfollow people who basically add no value to your life, really.
Yes, sir. Yeah, it's a tough one, obviously, because we are... You know, we're hooked on some of these people online, so I'm guilty of it. You are as well. But just, you know, have a think about it next time, and have a think about how much time you're spending on there, and how much is that taking and devaluing your life and your relationships with people around you. So
definitely,
you know, there's ways to combat it, like, which I need to work on myself as well. Like if you are at dinner with someone, with a family or a loved one or friend, then maybe just say, you know, make an agreement, make a pact that you do just put your phone down for that hour. Just have a conversation, like, you know, that's one easy start. I know people who go out in groups and they say, like, the first person to look at their phone at this table is going to pay the bill for dinner. So yeah, that stops people. You know, that's a good chance. Can't even speak. Sorry, Martin.
No, it's all good. I know what you're trying to say.
That's a nice thing to do, you know.
Definitely.
You can maybe I go for a walk with my dog, like, quite often without my phone, so I can just be in the moment with him. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
We gaze into each other's eyes and hold hands on the walk, so which is nice.
Yep.
And you didn't get that. And one day we...
No, I was looking at something then. I was like, can you see me on the video?
Sure.
Yeah? Can you see me on the video? Yeah, cool. Yeah, go on.
Yeah. One day a week, you might want to just swap your phone, or just make a plan. I'm going to do it Sundays now, because Sunday seems to be a day where I have more time to myself. But that then leads me into looking at Instagram more often. So Sunday's going to be a day where I say, right, I'm going to put my phone down now. I'm not going to look at social media all day. And just maybe structure your day around it. Like, obviously we were saying earlier that you use it a lot more than me. So, like, maybe just say to yourself, right, between the times of, I don't know, when you're free from PT sessions, maybe between the times of 11 and 12, I'm going to allow myself to update my social media, do my stories, and then that's it for the day.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's the collaboration we've got as well now. I think it's going to be better. As much as I love the writing stuff we're doing, right? Writing content, writing blogs and whatnot. I really enjoy that. It's like therapy. I love it, and same as you. But one of us has got to spend more time on social media, right? And obviously, because I've been doing it for longer or whatever with the stories and whatnot, and obviously you're pumping out loads of content, like. I think
there's two examples of someone who highly embraces it and uses it, like, on a regular basis. As you said earlier, like, your mum was worried about you because you didn't do a story. That's one example of you using it to full effect, where I'm like kind of the opposite, where I'm really struggling to get into it. I do it like sporadically, and I need to be more consistent.
But that's it. It's pros and cons, isn't it? Like, that's why I think you need to work as a team here, right? Because if one of us is doing it and obviously in the habit of doing it, you know, it's just what works better for you, right? Basically, what works better for the individual. But just for the audience, you know, like, just be aware that whenever you're going on, what are you checking? Is it adding value to your life when you're going on there, right? What are you checking for when you go on? A lot of us do. I pick my phone up, right? Why am I? You don't even know why you're going on it. Sometimes you just it's an addiction. Your iPhone is like an extension of you, right? It's like literally. Go on.
Sorry,
like, I was just going to say, you just pick it up, don't you? And right now, for example,
once you're in New York, right? In New York, you're on the subway, right? I try and read a lot when I sit down. If I can get a seat on the subway, I'll read a lot. But you just look around, and there's probably 80-90% of people on their phones, and you can't even get a signal down there for the most part. So what are they looking at? They're just scrolling through bullshit. Do you know what I mean? It's mental, man. It's just, we're hooked.
Yeah, we're completely hooked.
It's crazy, man. We're just hooked looking at stuff. It's just...
that's it. We're literally doing that.
We're excited. We can't be bored. We can't do something else. So it is important that we just do spend some time away from our phones from every so often, you know?
100%. Yeah, so it comes down to why, really, doesn't it? Why are you using it? If you're using it for... There's a fine line between education and entertainment. The good thing is now you can be entertained and educated at the same time, because there's people putting good content out there, which is, you know, it's funny, it's entertaining, and it's going to educate you, right? But there's normally a fine line. So if you're going on there for entertainment, right, it's cool. Like, we all want to be entertained anyway, like whether you're watching Netflix or going on your phone, wherever it is, right? But really, like, are you getting sucked in too much? The chances are you probably are. And some of the people you're following probably not really adding that much value. So like, you just got to ask yourself, like, why am I using it? Like, do I really need to go on it in the morning when I wake up, for example? I think one of my main tips is, like, in the morning, don't go straight on your phone. Just get up, like, have a shower, do what you got to do. Like, obviously, whatever your thing is. For me, obviously, I get up, do some stretches and whatnot, have my my hot water and lemon and salt or whatever, and then I'll go on my phone once I've served myself, essentially. So like, I like to look after myself a little bit first before boom up, because essentially you're putting your mind in that stress state. Whether you realize it or not, you're going to release cortisol and whatnot when you go on your phone. Obviously dopamine as well. So straight away you're kind of changing the way you're thinking about things,
process,
essentially.
right?
Yeah, your thought process.
Your thought process for the day. If you're looking at emails or you're looking at Instagram or whatever, regardless of, it could be the most positive post, some of the most positive posts you see, but there's going to be something on there that pisses you off and sets you up for the day in the wrong fashion.
Definitely.
And it's going to have you think in a different way for the majority of the morning, or and we're wondering why we sometimes feel low and we feel down because of that. Because if you're looking at it, it's even that impact from the light straight away is bad enough when you wake up.
Definitely.
You want to just give yourself time to breathe, time to move, time to relax, time to drink some water, whatever.
Yep.
Do that first, at least for 30 minutes to an hour every day. And nothing bad is going to happen in that time.
100%.
Nothing crazy is going to happen on social media that someone's done.
No. There's not going to be anything that important, is it? And obviously before bed as well, that's another one, right? So like, try and come off, we've said this several times, but yeah, coming off the screen like an hour before bed, and invest in some blue light blockers. We've talked about all that, but listen, mate, I'm going to have to wrap it up now. Is there anything you wanted to say to summarize, or?
I was speaking to my mother, actually, because I wanted to see how she feels like has impacted people's lives. And I asked her about, like, how was TV at the time. I was thinking, was TV viewed in the same fashion? And she says, like, it was very different. She said it was more exciting. People were getting into TV. There was more of an excitement around it. She said, from her experience, social media can cause a lot of problems. And she believes that it gives people the wrong idea about other people's lives, as everything looks rosy in their lives and gives a false impression. Like, particularly, like, the young people can be drawn into this way of perceiving things. But she does say there are pluses, like we said earlier, particularly for someone like me who lives far away from home. Is an easy and quick way to keep in touch with friends. But she says, like, unfortunately, it was better before all this technology. It was simpler and people spoke and engaged to each other. She thinks it's here to stay, so I guess you have to embrace it. But she's glad she grew up in a different era and with less pressures than today. So it's going to be interesting to see how both, like, ourselves and kids emerge from this. Hopefully they come out on the other side in a positive fashion,
Wow, your mum's are always right, man. That was spot on. We'll have to get her on the podcast, mate. That was bang on. There we are. That's it. That's a wrap, mate.
I'm done then. I'm out.
Why couldn't you just say that at the start, mate? That would have been it. That would have been job done. Don't have to talk all that bullshit. No, mate, that's it's so true, though, isn't it? It's so true. But yeah, just for I guess I'm just going to wrap it up real quick. For me, use with caution. It can be some great benefits. So obviously, it keeps you connected. But how much time are you wasting on there? Check. I can't think what it is you look at in your settings, but it's easy to do. You can look and see how much time you're spending on there. Obviously, there's that app which is called Moments, which is even more in depth. So just be awareness is the first step, right? And just like a lot of the time when you go on there, especially social media, without realizing it, you're soothing. You could be soothing some sort of psychological issue, right? So it's a form of escapism. I'm not making out that everyone's mental, but why are we going on there so often? Why are we trying to be taken away from the present? Is the present really that bad? You know what I mean? So just being aware, I guess.
The app limiter as well is good. The limited time I mentioned earlier, that's really helped me. So limit your time on it and limit your mornings on your phone.
Sweet.
And evenings, right?
Spot on, mate. All right, nice one, Drew. That's a wrap then, mate.
Thanks, mate.
Thanks a lot, mate.